Elvis Presley. I mean, the name itself is an institution, right? For millions, he was way more than a superstar. He was an icon, the undisputed king of rock and roll. But behind that legend is a story of incredible contrasts, from a tiny two-room shack in Mississippi to the glittering stages of Las Vegas.
And that really just hits the nail on the head. He wasn't just some musician, he was a cultural force, a complete earthquake that redefined popular culture for generations to come.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? What were the moments, the influences, and the choices that created this larger-than-life figure? Well, let's dive in and find out, right from the very beginning. So our story doesn't kick off under the bright lights of a stage. No, it begins in the humble, impoverished Deep South, where a revolution was quietly getting started.
So he was actually born a twin, but his brother, Jesse, was tragically stillborn. This meant Elvis grew up as an only child in a very, very close and loving family, but one that was also deeply poor. And this upbringing, it really would shape him for the rest of his life. You know, his whole world was basically his musical education. He soaked up everything around him. The incredible soul of gospel music from church, the raw feeling of the blues he'd hear in his neighborhood, the stories and country music on the radio, and the contagious energy of rhythm and blues. He was like a sponge, and by mixing these sounds together, sounds that, you gotta remember, were totally segregated back then, he was about to cook up something the world had never, ever heard before.
I mean, the sheer speed of his rise to fame, it was just staggering. Seriously, think about this for a second. In 1954, he walks into Sun Studio and records That's All Right. Just 2 years later, by 1956, he's not just a star, he's a full-blown national sensation. This wasn't some slow burn, you guys. This was an explosion.
So now, with the world pretty much at his feet, Elvis didn't just stop at music. Nope. His reign stretched all the way to Hollywood, where his image was about to become even more iconic.
31. Just let that sink in. That's how many feature films he starred in. Movies like Jailhouse Rock and Viva Las Vegas. Now, were they all Oscar contenders? Not exactly, but they absolutely cemented his image as this charismatic leading man and brought his music to a massive global audience.
And you know, while he was making all those movies and becoming a huge star, something pretty remarkable happened right at the peak of his fame. He got drafted into the U.S. Army. Instead of finding a way out of it, which he probably could have, he served honorably in Germany. This move earned him a ton of respect from an older generation that had been pretty skeptical of his whole rebellious thing. Oh, and it was also in Germany that he met a young Priscilla Beaulieu, who would of course later become his wife.
Okay, so by the late 60s, things had kind of cooled off. After years of just churning out movies, his music career had hit a wall. A lot of people saw him as a relic of the past. He needed a reset, a big one, and it came in the form of one legendary night on television. You have to understand, this wasn't just another concert. This was a statement. After years of predictable movie soundtracks, Elvis was coming back to reclaim his throne. The '68 comeback special was a massive, high-stakes gamble to reinvent himself for a whole new era. And boy, did it pay off. Dressed from head to toe in black leather, he was raw, he was intense, and he was just dripping with that classic charisma. This whole performance just stripped away that Hollywood gloss and reminded everybody of the raw magnetic performer who started it all. He wasn't just back, he was better than ever. Re-energized and creatively reborn, Elvis enters this final, incredible phase of his performing career, defined by these spectacular live shows and a string of massive new hits. And man, this era gave us some of his most timeless classics. Songs like Suspicious Minds and Burning Love weren't just hits, they were these huge anthems that showed off a mature, powerful singer at the absolute top of his game. At the same time, his personal life was just as intense. He married Priscilla, their daughter Lisa Marie was born, and then later, they divorced. And while his career was absolutely soaring, behind the curtain, the insane pressure of fame was really starting to take its toll, leading to growing health problems and a reliance on prescription drugs. And then, on August 16, 1977, the world just stopped. The news of his death was a total shock, but the end of his life? That was nowhere near the end of his story. In fact, his legacy was really just getting started. He was only 42 years old. I mean, that is tragically young for a guy who gave so much to the world. But what he left behind? It's just mind-boggling. Over 500 million records sold worldwide. That number is so big, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. It puts him right up there in the pantheon of the best-selling solo artists in the history of music, period. And it wasn't just a flash in the pan. His success was incredibly consistent. We're talking over 150 of his albums and singles hitting gold, platinum, or even multi-platinum status. The sheer volume of it all is just proof of this incredible, lasting connection he had with his fans.
So when you boil it all down, his influence is permanent. It's just woven into the very fabric of our culture. He's the king of rock and roll. He's in the Hall of Fame. He has a Grammy for Lifetime Achievement, and his home, Graceland, is still a pilgrimage site for millions of fans from every corner of the globe.
Which really brings us to our final question. It's been decades, yet his music, his image, his style, it all continues to captivate us. So why? Why does the king still reign? Maybe it's because he wasn't just singing songs. He was the embodiment of a cultural rebellion, a fusion of sounds and a charisma that you just can't duplicate. He was, and he remains, a true phenomenon.